Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today we're talking about fear, how prevalent fear is and how it can hold us back from making the right decisions in our life, or really any decision at all, and what we can do to remedy that. The question is always like, well, how do I know that that's going to happen come tax time? And it's like the opposite of fear is faith. And there does need to be a little bit of faith.
We know the tax code inside and out, therefore we don't fear it. And so having a team member who knows how to handle this and utilize all the best benefits that it creates for you is magical. When you're having a conversation with someone at Terra Firma and we tell you this is what you can save in taxes, we are saying it because we know what we can do with it.
I've been having conversations with all these doctors, and I know you guys have as well. And the one thing that keeps popping up the most is just the really to one. If we narrowed it down to one word, fear.
Fear. And before we started recording, I was telling you guys some of the very dramatic things that I hear on these calls, and there's so much emotion there.
Yeah.
Just this week, I have heard, I can't sleep at night. I'm making so much money, but life kind of sucks. I'm funding terrorism. It's criminal. I don't know what to do about it. Just so many like helpless type things. And I was saying that to this one guy, I said, I just want to put my arm around you and tell you you can stop feeling that way because you've found the people who can help you. And of course, our goal is always to show very clearly how we can help and how much can be saved. And what sparked this is that we can show black and white. I mean, it's a little bit ballpark in the beginning, and then we can go deeper and get the actual numbers, but it's pretty accurate. Like I can tell you, okay, it looks like we can save you maybe $200,000 in or $500,000 in this case. And you'd think they'd be like, woohoo, that's amazing. Let's do it. But they're not. Their faces on the Zoom calls are just kind of like, wait, what? I mean, really skeptical and really fearful. Like the audit question always comes up. Yeah. The things that they're afraid of. And I think the mentality is, well, if you can really do this for me, how come I didn't know about this? Or how come no one has been able to do this for me in the past? And it's like, we talk a lot about how there's so much education that needs to happen because there isn't really a brain cell for that, for what we do. And they think it's too good to be true. It can't be possible. And so that fear holds them back. So we want to have a conversation about that today. Bob, share what you were sharing with our team yesterday.
Well, I think a lot of it is when you look at the just the emotion of fear. It really, when you break it down, it's because you don't know something. You're insecure. You have no clarity of it, right? So you fear that, right? And as Christians, one of the things that we see all the time when we read different aspects of even the Old Testament and the New Testament is that something occurs, and the first thing an angel does when they appear is fear not. Right? Be not afraid, right? It's a natural human emotion of fight or flight, right? And the reality is fear is to keep you from doing what you should be doing, which is why in this case, you need to be doing it. Ryan Holiday, have you ever read any Ryan Holiday stuff? He has a book called The Obstacle is the Way. And I've been using more and more of this with talking to people. I have one gal that I've been talking to, and she was having a relationship issue, and she's like, I'm just scared of being alone. I said, that's why you need to do it. And she took the action. She did the difficult thing, not because I did, but because she knew it was the step she had to do. Wow. There was nothing else. And a few months later, we're having a conversation, and she said, I just enjoy so much being alone.
Wow.
And so that is really the focus here, is that the fear is the first emotion to keep you from wanting to do what you actually want to do. Right? It's not because of the risk or that's scary. It's because that lack of clarity what to do. I don't have confidence in this. And nobody else has given me confidence or knowledge of this. Therefore, you say this, so I doubt it. And I'm going to be fearful of getting an IRS examination or an audit. Right? And so all real emotions, can't argue any of them.
Yeah.
Right? That's how they feel.
Well, and when you hear people talk about fear, like, it doesn't matter how rational the fear is, the impact is the same. I was listening to somebody talking about this. They're like, there's a difference between swimming in the ocean and being afraid of being attacked by a shark. It could happen. But what if you're on the 20th floor of a hotel and you're afraid of being attacked by a shark? The likelihood of a shark finding its way to the 20th floor and doing anything to you it's not likely. But the fear of that has the same impact on our psyche. I always love going to the Webster's, for a definition. So here's the definition of fear as a noun: an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or a threat.
Wow.
Like, it's the belief that who was it that said we have nothing to fear but fear itself? Super famous quote. I thought it was one of the presidents.
Roosevelt.
Yeah. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Fear itself can cause these things to happen. So Aaron, when you're talking about this, it's like, we can save you $500,000 or $1 million or $10 million. We know what we can do. We understand that you might have a fear of something. It is a belief that this thing isn't going to happen. It doesn't lessen the impact to your world, but it does help to know, okay, can we break this down logically and support what we're doing so that you can alleviate that fear?
And here's how we can be confident in saying that, is that we asked you for numbers, your numbers. We didn't make up numbers. We asked you for your numbers. And we went through a very literally elementary school, adding and subtracting. Right? So in the cash flow recovery, it's what's your income? You tell us what number that is, Doc. What's your lifestyle expenses? What do you spend on a monthly basis? What's your cost of living? That's your number. You told us that number. We subtracted that number from the income number, and it equaled the number that is essentially the cash flow that you're paying taxes on. You just told us you don't need to. You just need to pay taxes on your lifestyle expenses. Okay, that's your fair share. We just defined your fair share, right? Well, how do I know what my fair share is? We just defined it. Well, what happens to the rest of that? Well, because we know how the tax code communicates to us as business owners, and having access to various parts of the tax code and the legal system as a business owner, you can actually use those rules and laws that are there for you. Use them. They're there. They're telling you what to do. They're clues. They're hints that you just need to go do. Well, we know what those are. And so when you do that, whatever your marginal tax rate is, when you multiply that percentage to that cash flow recovery, there's your taxes. There you go. That is the simplicity of it. Well, why hasn't anybody else made it that simple?
Right.
That's why I did it. That's why I created it. I'm like, this is too easy. Somebody's got to be doing this. No.
Well, and it's funny because, Bob, the more sophisticated person we talk to, like people who really know taxes, CPAs, enrolled agents, tax attorneys, when we talk to them, they all have the same reaction. They're like, that's really brilliant. Like that's what it literally, I can't tell you how many times I've been on conversations and I hear this a lot too. Wow, that's not what I was expecting. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's really, really brilliant, the strategies. And I think this is the thing. People oftentimes fear what they don't understand. Mm-hmm. And you guys have heard me use this illustration a lot. I probably use it on this podcast. But when I see snake handlers, people will handle rattlesnakes, cobras, like really what I would perceive to be very dangerous creatures that I personally would be terrified of because I don't know that creature. I don't understand when it's coiling to strike versus, I don't know, it's maybe super calm. I don't know, but they do because they've spent a lot of time with that creature. And so they don't have a fear of it. They might have a healthy respect of that animal, but they don't fear that animal because they know it. And that's how I feel about us with the US tax code. We know the tax code inside and out, therefore we don't fear it. And so having a team member who knows how to handle this and utilize all the best benefits that it creates for you is magical. And so, yeah, when you're having a conversation with someone at Terra Firma and we tell you this is what you can save in taxes, we are saying it because we know that creature. We know what we can do with it.
Yeah.
I like that.
So what strategies do we use? Well, I don't know. Depends on you. Depends on your situation. Because the key is that the tax code communicates to us based on what we have. If I'm a W-2 employee and I'm making, I don't know, let's say a middle income of 120,000, there's only so much of the tax code I get access to, right? I'm going to have to take W-2 withheld. I can put money into my 401k if my company has a 401k that I work for. I know that's a deductible expense, non-taxable income that I can do that. If my company has something where I could do an HSA, yeah, I could probably do that. I may qualify at that amount to have some educational credits, right? That's about it, right? There's not a ton of stuff you have access to. Oh, your mortgage interest, right? You got to go get into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and you can deduct that interest, right? The same interest that when interest rates go down, the first thing you do is refinance your interest and you just lowered your tax savings, right? But isn't that the reason why you bought a house? No, it's not the reason why you do it. It's just something the IRS gives you. But that's what a W-2 employee has access to. But if that W-2 employee has access to a business, maybe their wife or their spouse or significant other has a business, and maybe they have some real estate. Well, all right, now you guys have a little bit more. So the IRS tax code talks a little bit more about how you handle it from a business perspective and how you handle it from a real estate perspective and what you can't do because you're not a real estate professional, what you don't get access to because you're not a real estate professional unless you structure things certain ways. Okay? So the tax code communicates to us where we're at, exactly where we're at. And the more we end up having, the more it communicates that we have access to stuff. And yes, the legal system gets put into it because they're banks of the river. I've used this analogy before. They're the guides of what we get to do. Well, we know that. You may not know that, but as a doctor, there's certain things about our health and certain elevations of our LDLs or HDLs and our hemoglobins, and I don't even know what I just said. I just remember from my last blood, and I don't know if those were high or bad, a high or low, or either if it was bad or I just remember those. Right? Oh, my white blood cell too. I remember that one. So I don't know what all that means. You do, and there's certain guidelines that people need to be in to have a health. Right? I don't know that. You tell me that my numbers are, those are really bad. We need to work on getting these down because this number says that you could have this, this, and this pretty soon into the future. Ooh, that sounds bad. Same thing with us. Hey, if you have these assets or these incomes, the IRS says they're going to tax you this way. So if you don't want to be taxed this way for these things, the IRS also says you have access to these things to be able to minimize the tax liability. And that's what we know. To Joe's point when he was saying, we know the IRS code inside out. We know how they're communicating to us at the level you're at. So you don't get access to everything, but you get access to, and the more you have, and that's part of membership as well, is that we know that, hey, put your assets here, you're going to get tax benefits here, but your wealth is also growing, right? All of that is, when we have these conversations, is to reduce that fear, back to that word, fear, because we're bringing clarity to you because this is what we do know. We can't tell you all of that in the cash flow recovery.
Right.
When we say we're going to save you $200,000 in taxes, we can't just throw up all this stuff on you.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
So that's why we do the cash flow recovery, to at least give you an idea, a ballpark. But then we go through discovery, the first phase of our membership, so that we're working with your specific numbers and we can give you your custom tax plan and the strategies and action items that we would recommend. So Bob, this has happened quite a few times too, where we will get to the end of discovery and now we're talking real numbers. This is, what your tax return is going to look like if you move forward with us and we can deploy these strategies. sometimes people move forward, but then sometimes they don't. And that's where I think we're just like flummoxed. It's like we're literally showing you the impact that we're going to have and the return on your investment that you are going to get. And so when they don't move forward, the question is always like, well, how do I know that that's going to happen come tax time? And it's like the opposite of fear is faith. And there does need to be a little bit of faith. And, I say it kind of tongue in cheek, but I'm like, we wouldn't really be in business if we said we were going to do one thing and then come tax time, it just doesn't happen. But I say that tongue in cheek, but it really is true. Like they do have to put a little bit of faith there. And there's some onus on us to like prove to you, yes, but like you just have to trust the professionals. Again, just like you trust your doctor when you're going into surgery, or you're, like, I know you know what you're doing. I'm going to trust that the outcome is going to be what you say it is.
Here's an analogy that just came to me while you were sharing. And I think it may not be the best analogy, but it just, again, my disclaimer is it just came to me. When we go through the cash flow recovery and discovery, right? We go through their tax return, don't we, Erin? We go through their tax return, show them where on their tax return, not ours, their tax return, where we're doing planning and where we're finding these numbers, where we're clarifying questions to get better answers so we can drill down to more of the information. And then saying, okay, because of this is the steps we can take, right? So it's kind of like buying a new car. Do you ever buy a new car? And have you ever just driven that new car off the lot? And then all of a sudden you're like, how do I use this? Where's the gas tank? Right? This whole thing, the screen, my last car didn't have a whole screen. How do I even turn on the radio? Right? No, they don't just say, bye, good luck, unless it's a used car that you bought at a dealership that's not part of the same make. So you go and you buy a Lexus or a Mercedes. What are they going to do? Once you go through it, you sit down, they're going to say, okay, here's how you do this. Here's how you do this. Here's where you do this. This is the control is going to have access to this. So it becomes less fearful. So when you're driving and trying to figure out how to turn on the lights because it's dark now.
Right.
Yeah.
They're giving you access. Now, they didn't tell you everything about the car. They didn't tell you how to connect your iPhone to the car. They didn't tell you how to get to the maps. They didn't tell you where to program in your different things, or upload your contacts. Or they didn't tell you all that stuff. They didn't tell you how to change the tire. They didn't go into all that stuff because that wasn't necessary to take that first step in getting home.
Yeah.
Now, imagine if that same thing happened a week later, your salesman calls you and said, okay, here's the second step. So you got home, you were able to drive the car for a week. Are there any questions you have or any things that you've tried to do with your car that you just weren't sure how to do it and I can help you with? Oh, thank you so much for calling me. Here are these questions. Great. Here's how you do this. Oh, by the way, here's what some other clients' questions had. And here's how you handle that. That's what we do in membership. We're literally
if anyone owns a dealership, take Bob's advice. Have your sales team do that. I've never seen that happen. That would actually be, you get so many referrals.
Right.
So send this episode to any of your friends who own dealerships.
Free advice. We'll do a tax plan for you as a dealership owner because your revenue is going to skyrocket. Right.
Yeah,
you're going to end up having tax problems, and that's what we want to do. We want to help you grow your revenue.
Right.
This is stuff that transcends industries and different things. This is just normal, but we talk to all these different people. But that's what we're doing in membership. And we're doing that because we're trying to create clarity, but we can't just eliminate all fear. And like to your point, Erin, is we're trying to give you as much as we possibly can to create this faith in us. But that's part of why we do charge you. There's got to be a commitment. You got to commit. This is your money. We're working for you on behalf of you. So you have to commit. That's why there is a price, an investment. Well, it may be a little bit higher than others. Yeah, because we want to make sure you are committed. Because we are. Boy, are we. Not just the past 20 years of getting us to this point so we can have this conversation, but the next 20 years to get you to your point.
Yeah.
That is where fear goes out the window. It's peace to your point, Erin, that you talk about peace and power. Peace and power. Yeah.
instead of fear and frustration. And just when you let fear hold you back, you are making the decision to stay in that frustration. And we are here, like I said, putting my arm around you and saying, we have the solution for you. Just trust me, like come along. But only you can make that decision, you know?
Well, and trust, trust is a funny thing, because trust is both given and it's earned. It's a two-way street. Someone has to give that trust to someone else, but it's not blind faith. It's not blind trust. It's reciprocated by earning that trust. And that's why part of the reason we've built our membership the way that we have is it allows someone to say, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to give you trust. Now we do it in such a way where we have 100% money back guarantee. So at the end of that period, if we haven't then taken that trust that you've given us and earned it and given it back to you, then you can say, peace out. Thank you very much. Wasted my time. I'm out. Okay. Like that might be the outcome for you. I doubt that's going to be the case, but understanding this nature of trust, think about this in any capacity, certainly with your patients, they're giving trust to you. But if you don't do your job, you're going to lose them as a patient because you haven't also earned that trust.
And that's why the discovery, we go through their tax return. It's their numbers. Somebody else put it together, not us. We're showing them where we're using the planning, right? And every single time after a tax discovery period, or where we call it kind of like a draft tax plan, so to speak, every time we go through that, every time they go, wow, I've never had anybody do that. I know, that's why you're scared. It is not scary. But because we understand where you're at, we understand that there's fear. This is how we help abide by that fear and hit it direct on, but also respect the fear to become faith. And why we do this tax side by side, right? I've shown you guys the client that I have tax returns from 2017 to 2023, and it's a side by side every year. I didn't pull out, 8 tax returns and we have them all kind of labeled on the screen here. No, they're on a spreadsheet side by side. We can see how their revenue was. We can see their taxable income, their tax code. They can grade us. Are we being effective or not? We're not hiding anything. And we do that, to your point, Joe, is to create that trust, to earn that trust, to show the commitment of, hey, we're completely transparent. And if you don't like these, you got to tell us. Because if you're expecting a net zero, it doesn't happen the first year all the time. But it does happen. But again, you have to have certain assets. You have to have certain access to the tax code. You have to be using the tax and legal system accordingly to end up having a net zero tax rate. All legal.
And that's why I love what we do so much, because so many of the things that I think all of us have probably been involved with in the past, either promoting it or selling it or buying it or anything, like there are no guarantees with a lot of things, like especially in the marketing world. Like I can sell you, I worked for a PR agency for many years and we billed by the hour. And then, I marketing like content packages. It's like, we hope this is what's going to happen, but I can't guarantee that. You're still going to pay us every month. I don't know if I'm going to get a story placed in the media for you. You're still going to pay us $5,000 this month, $10,000. With us, it's like, we can show you in black and white, this is what's going to happen. It's not a hopeful thing. It's not a wishful thing. It's actually happening. And we all like analogies around here. And when you were talking about people saying, no one's ever showed me that before, I think of like the way our brain works and the way neural pathways work. And like, we are prone to more negativity, but we'll stay in that pathway because it's just such a clear path. We've gone down it so many times. We know it's not serving us well, but it's hard to change and create a new neural pathway that's more positive and serves us better. So we're like, I'll just stick with this one. It takes work, but that work is so worth it. And so when you're working with us, it's like, you get that machete out in the, and you're making this new path that's never been done before. But once you put in the work to pave that new path, you get to the other end. You're like, this view is so much better than the one at the end of the other path I kept going down. So it's like, you need to take the step in faith to forge the path, the new path, but it's so worth it. So anyway, that's why I love what we do, because it's like you said, you can show it on paper. So It's exciting. I love it. All right. Anything else we want to say about fear before we wrap up this episode? We're good.
Joe's scared.
Aaron
Yeah, well,
closed it up. Okay. Well, we hope this was helpful. We hope that if you are sitting in a place of fear and frustration when it comes to your taxes, that this is the time you finally do something about it. And we can absolutely help. And we hope you found value in this episode. Subscribe, share with your friends, and we hope you'll join us again next week. And until then, go be a wealth maverick.